baseball tournament back in Hoover after a one-year absence. Not because it went anywhere else, just didn't play it last year. Mr. Brown, it's been a while. What's up, my friend?
I know. I thought you guys didn't like me anymore, Richard.
Well, some of us more than others.
Oh, yeah. It's understandable.
You don't know how to take that, do you?
I really don't. I don't know what you meant. I was just laughing out of courtesy.
Yeah, well, that nice. Now, I want to jump in and hear about this experience of golf with John Daly.
Well, I mean, I don't know that I knew what to expect, but it was John Daly, Taylor Hicks, the former American Idol winner who still lives here in town, and Taylor and I have known each other for quite a while, so I knew what I was getting with him. Wimp Sanderson, who used to coach at Alabama, and he comes on our show every week, so I've known Wimp for a while. And then Mike Mills, who is the bassist for REM.
Okay.
You know, playing with Daly was really cool. He was as nice a guy as you could imagine. He was fantastic with the fans. And I mean, I think I'm a pretty good judge of people, and he is just, I don't think there's anything fake about him. I mean, that's not always positive. I mean, he's had some issues in his life, obviously, but I honestly think what you see out of him is the real John Daly. I don't think he's playing any sort of character or anything. And, I mean, he could not have been more enjoyable, could not have been nicer. It was fantastic. And it was fun watching him too. I mean, he can still belt it out there pretty good, even at his age.
So when you're playing in a group like that, and John Daly is a guy that gets attention everywhere he goes, and you said just a second ago he's really good with the fans, do you get kind of one-on-one time is not the right word, but do you get to interact with him much, or is he just constantly engulfed by people around him?
No, it wasn't that bad. You know, around number 1, 9, 18, 10, you know, the holes near the clubhouse, it was pretty bad, but out on the course, no, he was, you know, it thinned out a little bit. There would be the random people wanting a photo with him or to sign autographs and things like that. But by and large, no. I mean, it was, you know, not really one-on-one time, but, you know, he and Taylor knew each other pretty well because he goes, Taylor's part owner in a restaurant here in town, and he'll go and play with them, play the guitar and sing with Taylor, you know, when he's in town. So he kind of knew him. He figured out, I don't know if he remembered who Wimp was, but he figured it out when they started talking basketball. So he had a connection with everybody. But no, I got a lot of time to talk to him, and those events can be kind of slow. So there was a lot of times where you're on a tee waiting to hit, and there's nothing else to do but talk. So, yeah, there was a little bit of time to catch up with him.
So this was the Regions Tradition Tournament that's in Birmingham. It's a great golf tournament. They do a really good job at the Pro-Am every year. One of the things that emerged was your buddy Charles Barkley looks like he's finally got a golf swing that he can play with a little bit.
Yeah, that's crazy. He got rid of that. I mean, I guess there's hope for all of us, right, if Charles can get fixed. He, I was talking with him after the round, he and the head pro there at Greystone, a guy named Steve Smith, and he was explaining to him he had worked with a guy named Stan, if I understood right, Stan Utley, who used to be like this short game expert. But I think and he's a former tour player, and I think that's who Charles had been working with, if I heard him say that right. And he's gotten rid of the weird pause in his swing. I mean, it's a normal looking golf swing now, and it's kind of crazy to watch it because you're so used to him just having that weird loopy pause that, I mean, just made you cringe when you looked
uncomfortable.
At it. Oh, it was so uncomfortable. But now it's like a normal looking fluid golf swing, and he actually has a pretty good shot too. So I'm happy for Charles. Yeah, I think he can enjoy the game more now.
He really does love it, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. Yeah, he plays a good bit. You know, he's in town here a lot. I think that would surprise people. He'll sneak into town unannounced and, you know, go eat at Fleming's Steakhouse all the time and play a lot of golf. And I do think he loves the game, but I just think, you know, it kind of got difficult for him to play because it was so laborious for him. And, you know, people, as good-natured as Charles is, and he's one of the most good-natured people you'll ever meet, I mean, when people make that much fun of you for that long, it is going to wear on you at some point. And I'd have to imagine at some point he just got tired of hearing all that, so he probably played a little bit less. But I do think he loves the game, yeah.
Did he tell you what happened that allowed him to finally get rid of that hesitation and swing through it?
I mean, he was just telling me what the teacher was teaching him, but I mean, he didn't tell me this, but that had to be a mental block. I mean, somebody did some mental work with him somewhere. Yeah, you don't just have that type of swing flaw and it not be some sort of mental block. So, I mean, there had to be, as much as the physical teaching, there had to be some sort of mental teaching that went into him getting rid of that. But he didn't tell me like he dealt with any sports psychologist or anything. But it wouldn't shock me if maybe he had spoken with one or two, because I just don't see how you can make that big a change. It just had to be mental for him.
I've got a buddy whose dad had a similar issue. I mean, he didn't have a pause in his swing, but he couldn't take it away. Like, he had played golf his entire life and was a fast player too. And he hit this point where mentally he would stand over the ball and he would start to take it back and he just couldn't do it. And he would literally stand there for 20 or 30 seconds before he could somehow tell himself to take it away and swing through it. It was the most uncomfortable thing I've ever watched on a golf course.
Oh yeah, that had to be painful.
Outside some of the bad shots I hit.
I played with a guy once, and we were in a group, and I knew everybody in the group, but I never played golf with them. So we match up, do teams, and I'm playing with this guy, and we play 5 holes, and he never has that kind of pulse. And we get on the 6th tee, and it's a Charles Barkley-like pulse. Like, he gets to the top of the swing, completely stops, does the pump fake, then hits the ball. I was like, where did that come from? He's like, yeah, that sneaks up on me sometimes. I'm like, oh, hey, we're partners, and I'm just now realizing you've got one of the worst swing flaws I've ever seen. He said, yeah, I don't do it every time. It just sneaks up on me sometimes.
Can you imagine?
No, but needless to say, I just started counting how much money I had at that point and figured, well, I was probably paying out at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how it works out sometimes. Hey, is there any – I'm assuming the answer is no because of kind of where they are in the standings, although I do think Alabama's trending maybe in the right direction. Is there any buzz whatsoever about college baseball in the state of Alabama?
Not a ton. You know, Auburn's not very good this year. In fact, I think had a historically bad conference start.
Yeah.
Alabama's improved. I think people, think Brad Bohannon – we'll do a good job there, but it's just a slow build. I will say, and I was thinking about this when you were setting us up coming in, I don't know what it's like for the fans in your state, but tickets are pretty tight over here, and I've been hit up for a lot of tickets. I think it's just one of the deals where this is going to be one of the first events that fans can go to. And I've been quite surprised with Alabama and Auburn being as bad as they have been, or as mediocre in Alabama's case as they've been, how many tickets I've actually been hit up for this event. So I don't know what it'll be like for the people in your state that are trying to come over, but there's a pretty big demand over here right now, and obviously it's limited. So that could be actually a pretty tough ticket.
I actually had a little piece of information dropped on me about a week ago that while the SEC announced initially that attendance was going to be limited, it wasn't going to be nearly as limited as we were initially led to believe. And the whole idea that you weren't going to be able to get any general admission tickets, that was probably not going to be the case when it was all said and done.
Well, I hope that's true. I was under the impression, and it could be the wrong impression, but I was under the impression that they had sold out of the general admission, and the only thing that was left was the full week books. And I was under the impression not many of those were left, but that could be incorrect, and I hope it is, because, I'd like to see a packed house. I think we're to the point where we could, probably do that right now, but hopefully they'll open it up some because, I know the State and Ole Miss fans will definitely want to be there. But, with LSU the way they are and the local teams the way they are, I was quite surprised that I've gotten hit up that often for tickets. So maybe it'll be a little bit freer than what I think so.
What are the restrictions like in Alabama at this point?
Not very bad. Everything, the mask mandate is over. Most places, don't really enforce mask. If you're in the city of Birmingham, it's probably a little strict, more strict as far as wearing the mask, at least when you enter a restaurant, things like that. If you're in the suburbs, I think it's probably a little more lax. The city of Birmingham has been a little bit stricter. So, and then there's a difference as well, like in Jefferson County and Shelby County. If those are, those who aren't familiar with the area, Jefferson County is where the city of Birmingham is, and Shelby County is, a highly populated area south in the suburbs. So there's some differences, just in kind of those areas.
Cool deal. If you can hang on just for a second, let's talk some college football on the other side of this break.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sports Talk. So we're doing the off-season circuit where Brian Harsin is talking and meeting with fan groups, and I guess some of that will pick up steam a little through the course of the off-season. Ryan, what are your expectations for Auburn? Or maybe let me ask it differently. What should our expectations be for Auburn in 2021?
I think realistically you would have to say making a bowl game would, I think, be a win. And I know that's a low bar for Auburn football historically, but I don't think Gus Malzahn left behind a very good roster. Bo Nix has struggled at best at quarterback, and Harsin's supposed to be a really good quarterback coach, so he's got to find a way to get the best out of Bo Nix. They don't have a ton of proven playmakers anyway at wide receiver. They were bad on offensive line last year. They were bad on defensive line last year. They've got maybe the best running back in the conference. So they've got some parts, but not a ton of parts, and they play in the SEC West. And, you can make a case for Auburn finishing last in the West. You really could. I don't know that you can make a case for them finishing anywhere above third. I know they're not better than Alabama. I'm pretty sure they're not better than Texas A&M. I don't think they're better than Ole Miss. I still don't know about State right now. The Ole Miss game last year was obviously a controversial ending. Everybody there knows that. The Arkansas game was a controversial ending. They could have lost both those games easily last year. So, I think it'll be a tough year for him. And you throw in a road trip to Penn State, primetime ABC game. So, I think a bowl, going to a bowl would be a pretty good accomplishment. I think that's a realistic expectation.
I think generally speaking, SEC fans, regardless of what team you're talking about, love these intersectional matchups. I think about Ole Miss going to Texas a few years ago. It feels like Auburn going to Penn State is one of those as well. Are Auburn fans really jazzed up about that, or is the fact that this may not be a team that Auburn carries in there that's going to have much of a chance to win, does that damper or hamper the enthusiasm?
No, I think they're fired up because it's just one of those places I think you want to go as a college football fan. You want to go to Happy Valley, and Auburn fans haven't had the chance to do that. They've played in bowl games, but, we've never seen the home and home. And, I think Auburn fans are super excited about that. And getting a game you don't normally get to see and an opportunity to go to a stadium otherwise you wouldn't go to. So, the Auburn fans are pumped about that one. I think that'll be a fun road trip, and I think you'll see as many Auburn fans as can get tickets will go up there because you got to assume that's probably, if that's the place you want to go, that's a once in a lifetime. You're probably not going to see that one back on the schedule anytime in your life, the way they're doing these schedules now.
Yeah, no kidding. Is there longer range enthusiasm for Brian Harsin at Auburn?
I think it's wait and see. He talks a really good game, and I don't mean that as an insult. I know it kind of sounds that way, but he does. When you listen to him talk, he sells you on Auburn. But I think Auburn fans are wait and see on him. I think, they look at Boise State, and honestly, Boise State regressed a little bit after Chris Peterson when he took over. That's not entirely his fault. They moved to a more difficult conference. So, I don't think you can just pin that on Brian Harsin, as regressing. But they did a little bit. They took a step back. And I think Auburn fans are, they're wait and see on his recruiting. It's a guy that's coming from the Pacific Northwest that doesn't have a ton of connections, if any at all, down here. And now he made some smart hires with, at least, we'll see how good the hires are, but guys that have SEC connections like Mike Bobo and keeping Carnell Williams and people like that. So, I thought that was smart on his part. But I think Auburn fans are wait and see on recruiting and wait and see on the field. There's a great unknown. He's generated excitement because he's a good face of the program and he sold it well, but I think as far as on the field goes, it's a huge mystery to Auburn fans.
Ryan, I feel like it was maybe 3 years ago, and for the record, I'm done predicting that Alabama takes any sort of a step backward in any given season, but I think it was 3 years ago in the offseason, I asked you, is this the year that they don't fall off, but maybe they take the smallest of steps back. And that was because, they were replacing however many NFL draft picks and offensive linemen and quarterback and running back and receivers and whatnot. And obviously that hasn't happened. But the cycle is happening all over again. Multiple guys on the offensive line, a great running back, a quarterback that went top 10 or 15 or wherever it finished being, a Heisman Trophy winner at wide receiver. So knowing, I think that they're not going to take a step back, is there any concern or any scenario where Alabama does take a little bit of a step back?
Yeah, it's possible. Don't feel bad, Richard. I think Dan Wolken ended the dynasty in 2014, so you were at least after him.
Please don't ever use my name and Dan Wolken's in the same sentence again. Please.
My apologies. My apologies. Yeah, you can see it. Here's the thing, though. I think they will. They can't help but take a step back on offense, right? That was one of the best offenses we've ever seen in college football. It was the best in Alabama history, for sure. And, you got to think they'll take a step back at some point on that. But here's the thing. I think they're going to be much better defensively. I think their defense is going to be much, much improved. Listen, they've got two legit pass rushers up front. They were good at linebacker, and when Henry To'oTo'o transfers in, I think they may have the best linebacking core in the country. With he and Christian Harris, and if you consider Allen and Anderson the other two linebackers, which it's next to their name there, the LB. That's a great linebacking core. There are some parts that they've got to replace in the secondary, but I think the secondary is going to be really, really good. I think it's going to be one of Alabama's best defenses in quite a while. So, that's just it's kind of the way it goes, I guess, for Saban, is they take a step back on one side of the ball and take a step forward on the other, and I think that's exactly what will happen. Now, when I say they take a step back offensively, I don't have it in front of me, but I think they ended up right at, almost 50 points per game. I'm talking like 45, 46 points per game still. I think they'll still be really good offensively, but I don't think it'll be quite what it was last year.
We had the people a year ago with the Bryce Young conversation that were like, hey, yeah, this guy's going to start from day one. And then Mac Jones ends up putting statistically the best season or one of the best seasons that we've ever seen, not just in the SEC, but in college football up. And Bryce Young got some small samples, and I didn't think there was a lot to take away from that. Like, I didn't look at him the way I did, say, Tua Tagovailoa when we saw him in small samples, and we're like, wow. Should I be saying wow when I think about Bryce Young?
Not yet. Not based on what you said, because you're right. When Tua Tagovailoa would replace Jalen Hurts, oftentimes the offense looked better. We literally would have people calling the show saying, I hate to say this because I love Jalen, but this offense is better with Tua in it, and sure enough, it was in the long run. But we didn't see that out of Bryce Young. I don't have it in front of me. I think he had 22 pass attempts, maybe 23. He kind of disappeared. He was non-existent down the stretch. The most playing time he got was early in the season. Yeah. But he did look in the spring game. He's got all the talent in the world. He comes from, a high school football program that's a football factory. So, I think he's used as much as you can be to playing in the spotlight. His size is a concern, I think. He's, been playing with it his whole life, obviously, so he's figured it out. But these will be the biggest defenders he's ever played against and the biggest offensive line he's ever played behind. So, he's the type of guy that's got to kind of be creative to create his passing lanes, because he's generously 5'10". That is generous for him. And especially when you see him next to a guy like Evan Neal, he looks like he looks like he's stumbled in from the kids' game, the Pop Warner game. He is just a small guy, and that.
So you're not buying the 6'1", 194 that he's listed at on Alabama's website?
Negative. That is very much media guide height and weight. I don't know about his weight, but I know he is not. Was it say 6 foot or 6'1"?
6 feet.
Yeah, I don't think he's 6 foot. To be fair, I've not stood next to him, but you watch him on the field, and he does not look 6 foot. He's look, Tua is barely 6. So it's not like he can't succeed. I'm just saying he's got to be a little bit more creative. And I think Bill O'Brien probably has to be slightly more creative with him, because he's not your prototypical 6'3" quarterback that can stand back there and scan the field easily.
It's going to get here in a hurry. We're just outside of 100 days from that full opening weekend, and I know there are a lot of people that are excited about it. I know you guys are.
Yep, I love seeing the kick times. We got kick times today. It starts to get real when you see the kick time.
We've been teasing that for an hour and a half. It's actually coming up next, the marquee matchup kick times that we got earlier today. Ryan, always a pleasure. Look forward to seeing you hopefully next week in Hoover.
Yeah, I'll try to sneak out there and see you guys. Y'all take care. Good talking.